Welcome one and all to the Ferret Raccoon podcast episode 216. I am your one and only host for this podcast, the Angry Raccoon, bringing you the first podcast of May 2023, and it has been an interesting month so far. I know it's only the 1st of May, the day this podcast is going up, but already the day being the 1st of the 1st of May is one of 3 bank holidays we're going to be having over here in England, as it has something to do with the royal family something. I really don't care about the monarchy or the royal family. It doesn't bother me. All I know is that we have 3 Mondays off, and that is fantastic, in combination with the fact that there are going to be strikes on the 2nd of May, so children all across the country are going to be having a 4-day holiday, which is awesome for them. I'm a bit annoyed that I can't actually enjoy that Tuesday off, but whatever, that's how it goes. But it has been a really interesting previous 2 weeks back in April for me. Had a lot of computer technology issues, which made me a bit paranoid in terms of actually making this podcast. I know it's probably turning into a bit of a sad, sorry song or whatever you call it, but I really need to get a new laptop. But the one major thing I did do over the last 2 weeks was I participated in Record Store Day 2023. This was the first time I actually went out to a record shop and actually, lined up for it. I actually went with friend of the podcast, Recess. We met at mine at about, I think we met for about just after 5 a.m. We got up to London just after 6, and surprisingly, the store we were actually waiting outside of actually opened at 8 a.m. compared to other shops which are opening at 10 a.m. So we basically got everything that we wanted within, let's say, 10 minutes of actually being in the shop, because it was very much like a candy store where all the records were numbered, and obviously you had a sheet so you knew which ones you wanted to get. So it was just like, I need 25, 46, I need 100, I need 130. You pay and you go. And we're not going to name names, but we were walking past some of the other record shops that weren't opening for another 2 hours, and we were kind of laughing and kind of amazed at the fact that the people in the lines of these other shops were just still lining there. And it did confuse me a little bit, because I'm like, you could go to the other shop we just went to and probably get everything you want. It kind of felt like these people were lining up, just because this shop was more popular, or just because they are one of the first people in line. Like, yes, the people who are much, further in the line are going to get what they want, but still, I'd rather get in and get out as opposed to wait for another 2 hours at some, hype beast shop or whatever. But you know what? That's them. This is me. I'm not going to say what records I got, because I only got 4. Because we may save that for a future discussion with Recess, so hopefully that becomes a thing. But other than that, we've got just a few news stories and trailers to talk about. The first is a really interesting one, which I'm a bit torn on, but I'm mostly positive about, and that is going to be the fact that Final Space creator Olan Rogers, or Olan, I'm not quite sure how you say his name, so I'm just going to refer to him as Rogers, has been permitted to finish the Final Space series, which was a HBO/Warner Brothers Discovery TV series, or animated TV series, that originally kind of started on a Cartoon Network and Adult Swim. He's going to be allowed to finish it with a graphic novel. Now, I'm going to address this real quick, because I don't want to diminish the importance of this situation the next comments I'm going to make are not necessarily directed at Rogers or the deal he's gotten, but the industry really needs change. Like, I hate the fact that a series like Final Space ends and that's it. It's never seen again, with no DVD or Blu-ray release, especially if it's an older, obscure series. It sucks, because creators' series are forever owned by some company, and the only reason they keep said series is so that no one else can have it or do anything with it. It's petty, and it really frustrates me, because even at the end of the day, I don't really understand why these companies don't at least cut some kind of deal where it's like, we'll give you the option to pay for it, or after 10 years we'll give you the rights back to the show, but we will keep the show that was created under our jurisdiction or whatever. It's really frustrating, and I really hate it. And obviously it's put people like Rogers in situations where he's had to, as he explains in the video, which is going to be in the description and the download link, that he fought for almost 2 years just seeing what he can do to try and get this show back. And he has kind of been given a pretty fantastic opportunity. And based on his emotions and passions in this video, I couldn't honestly be more happy for him. His own quote in the video, where he basically says, "Never, never, 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 never give up on the things you're passionate about," ring true and are a good reminder of that fact. Now, in terms of the deal, it is very interesting. This is where things get a bit blurry, and this is where my opinion, and I guess his opinion, kind of differ to some extent, because he doesn't really see the restrictions of said deal. I think they're a bit unfair, and they've kind of put him in a massive, not necessarily disadvantage, because we'll get into that, but he's got a big task, because he is essentially allowed to create this comic that's going to finish the series. But let's actually read the I guess restrictions, or whatever you want to call it. So basically, Rogers is not allowed to crowdfund the book. He can only self-finance, although he is allowed to accept pre-orders. The book can only be sold on a website owned by Rogers. That means it won't be available on Amazon or any other third-party marketplaces. It must be self-published. Rogers is only allowed to produce and distribute hard copies of the book, so no digital copies are allowed. No animation, no voices. Rogers cannot produce or release other Final Space books after this one, at least under the terms of this current deal. So it is interesting. There's a lot of really odd restrictions that kind of, once again, like I said, puts him in a situation where he has a big task ahead of him. He essentially has to make a book on his own. He cannot sell it anywhere else. This is all on him. And he does explain that it is going to be a massive thing, and I do believe he can do it. He does seem like an extremely competent creator and artist, and I know, based on how he's talked and based on how passionate he is for his own creation, he most likely knows how he wants to end this series and how he wants to go about doing the comic. It will be interesting to see how the series and the story is going to translate from a visual media to a still media. I think that's a very, fascinating situation, but I really don't like the restrictions they have put on him. It really does bother me. Once again, he doesn't see them, I kind of do. I'm not saying that he should have fought for a better deal, because he does say in the video that it was a take it or leave it situation, and I think he did the right thing by taking the deal. It is also worth noting as well, someone and other people kind of mentioned the fact, or reminded me, that Warner Brothers Discovery is in debt. Big time. They are in debt by the billions. So, of course, they weren't willing to give, as they see it, some guy money to create a series, or to continue a series they see no money in, because they are too busy promoting the Flash film, which is obviously going to be the most fantastic, amazing film of all time with no controversies at all. I'm being sarcastic for those who can't tell. But at the time, I guess at the time of recording, and as of right now, he has his website up. I believe it's called finalspace.com, and he does say in the video that he has 10,000 copies planned. And at the time of recording, I just checked this literally before recording, 16,650 copies have been sold, and there are 413 copies available. Now, this number, in terms of the ones available, is fluctuating and going up, because I believe that, obviously, because it's more demand means he can obviously, more demand, more money coming his way means that he can obviously produce more books if there is that said demand. I'm going to get a copy of this comic, despite the price tag. For me, over here in England, it's going to be £101, which is a big deal. He has said that the book is going to be a big one. He says he's looking at least 400 plus pages, which is pretty big for a comic book. And I mean, I don't blame him. He wants to end this series and kind of tie up every single loose end. I'm going to get my abacus out later today, and I'm going to do some working out and figure out. But I really want to get this comic, because I think it's a big deal. He also said he's going to sign every comic, which I think is a good thing to do. And obviously, once again, a massive task, because he'll be at this rate signing 20,000 copies. But good on him for the most part. I mean, it is an interesting situation, as Roger kind of sums up everything by saying, "It's not the ending you guys wanted, but it's the one that's possible. And I hope that this becomes like a standard that evolves in creators' favors, in that they're able to, or at least companies are able to kind of go, yeah, we cancelled your show, but we'll let you do a one-off comic again, or we'll let you do a limited time animation event, or hey, you can do an animation with your own money and upload it to your website, but you have to, credit the studio because we technically own it and blah, 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 and all that. It is a positive situation at the end of the day. I am really happy that something like this has happened. I do not like the fact that we've come to this situation. I'm not necessarily saying that Warner Brothers should obviously let every series continue on and, go for however long it wants. I get it. They're a greedy business at the end of the day. Things happen. Lots of shows, past, present, and future, will be cancelled before they get their ending. But I'm not going to praise Warner Brothers Discovery in any way, because they are still a shitty company at the end of the day. And I hope that after this comic comes out, the studio just dies and liquefies, to be honest, because they have nothing of worth right now. Moving on to our first trailer, kind of taking a break, but sticking with animation, we have Frog and Toad, which is based on the, I believe, the 4 short stories from a little while ago. And this is so cute and wholesome. Like, this is the perfect little show for little children to watch before they go to bed. But knowing that a lot of adults read the books and, they read the books when they were younger, this series is going to have a big audience from adults, obviously watching the show to see how it is. Obviously, these adults are watching it with their children now, hopefully sharing that magic that hopefully the series captures from the original books. And having Nate Faxton and Kevin Michael Richardson as the 2 characters, I think was a perfect choice in casting. The only negative I have for this trailer, really, because it is a very small trailer, that only just basically shows you clips and kind of shows you how lovely and sweet the series is going to be, is that I wish the series had a style similar to the books. Because when I look at the books, the illustrations do remind me a little bit of The Wind in the Willows, because the characters have a somewhat pseudo-realistic look to them. Here, they're a little bit more playfully cartoony. I mean, for example, one is green, one is orange, or brownish. You don't really, frogs aren't really that color, or toads, I should say. But the backgrounds are beautiful, so there's that. And I really am looking forward to the series. I hope that it's going to be a show that myself, who's not massively familiar with the stories, can, just put on, enjoy. I know it seems very child-leaning, but who knows? It might have a little something extra there. I mean, even if I'm just watching it for the 2 main characters, but yeah. Next one we have is going to be for Disney's Wish. This is, I guess, the film that is going to be celebrating the studio, but I'll be getting to that in a bit. And for all the hype they've created about this film, talking about how it's going to be amazing, it's going to have the most, I think they said at some point, the most sinister villain Disney has ever had. All the good talk they were talking about this film, this trailer sure is disappointing. This is an origin story for the shooting star that flies over the castle at the beginning of a Disney film. That's so weak and self-indulgent for a concept for a film. Who gives a shit at the end of the day? Could you not come up with something more interesting for your 100th anniversary existing as a studio and an IP? We just got... Well, there goes my phone falling on the floor. Sorry. You could have made an animated biopic about Walt Disney. Or how about even an Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, feature-length film? I think, given his significance with your company and the fact that you guys had to fight to get that character back to being a Disney character, is pretty interesting for the most part. I think he deserves more than just a 1-minute animation, which, yes, it was hand-drawn and it is very nice, but you could do more with such a, once again, significant character. Why are we making films about logos now at the end of the day? This is what it boils down to. Where's the Siren origin story film? That's the Starbucks logo, if you didn't know. Where's her film explaining how she became the logo for the Starbucks? And that. So, I mean, but let's be fair a little bit. So Disney is adopting the same 2D meets 3D style that others have been implementing recently, And that's respectful. They're trying something new, and I will give them that. It still looks like 3D models being poorly animated, and it's very limp when you look at it aesthetically compared to other films like Puss in Boots 2 and Into the Spider-Verse. But Disney has finally caught up to 2018, which is a good thing. But let's be real, it's a little bit too late. Like, it looks like they're just copying because it's popular, and people are going to say that once they see this film. The people who have been enjoying films like Spider-Verse and Puss in Boots 2 are going to immediately call them out for that. Because it's, Disney could have done this a long time. They just chose not to, probably because they were told or thought it wasn't very profitable at the end of the day. But I will give the film this. The softer color palette looks beautiful. It certainly stands out and amplifies the storybook or the Disney princess aesthetic. But other than that, this film is honestly nothing special. Like, in films from time, like, I don't know how to explain it, but like, I'm not going to praise them for including a villain, because they should have been including them from the beginning, or at least for a while at this point. And this villain who they're claiming is going to be the most sinister villain of all time, who's just some guy at the end of the day, he's probably going to be like her uncle or something like that, or related to her. So it'll just be them using the whole generational difference as the real bad guy thing again as a replacement for the real villain, which you've probably seen in pretty much every single Disney film in the last 7 years now, and it's quite boring and people are getting very bored of it. They really need to stop doing that, because once again, it's boring, especially when you once again compare it to how well done the villains in Puss in Boots 2 were. The only way this film is going to succeed is if it's a musical, and it is a musical. If this film has annoying earworm songs, it's going to make back its money, but that's about it. That's probably all this film will ever be remembered for, is having that one annoying song that your children keep playing on YouTube. And that's this film's legacy, and that will probably be Disney's legacy at the rate they're going. But let's continue with sinister things, and let's talk about Black Mirror Season 6. I'm shocked that they're actually doing another season, given how disastrous Season 5 was. It's been a while since we've seen Black Mirror, and debatably, I do wonder if we even still need a show like Black Mirror. This trailer doesn't hold a candle to the TV trailer for Season 2 for Channel 4. If you've never seen it, I'm going to link it in the description. And I want everyone who, I guess, is listening to this podcast to go watch the trailer for Season 6 and to then go and watch the trailer that I've linked in the description for Season 2. And you have to be mad to tell me that you don't think the Season 2 trailer is better, because it is. Ever since the series moved to Netflix and the American or the new writers took over, it's not been as great as those first two British TV series, in my opinion. It just hasn't at the end of the day. And don't get me wrong, from Season 3 to 5, there have been good episodes. I can count all of them on one hand. The series seems to be returning to form compared to Season 5, which was so forgettable, and honestly, it felt like it was embarrassed to be about technology. It would rather tell basically any other story for the most part. It was honestly quite shocking for the most part. And looking at this series for the most part, how do I put it? The focus does seem to be back on technology and how that's affecting people, which, if is the case, is obviously a good direction and the obvious direction to go for this series. As we are seeing a little bit of commentary that's quite relevant to current times. I'm kind of talking about the social perception of image, status, and beauty. We're definitely seeing some elements of madness. There are some kind of creepy horror elements there, which are very promising compared to, once again, Season 5, that was just a drama at the end of the day with elements of love. But yeah, the other thing I do hate about this trailer is how they've edited the logo into the trailer. The smiley face that's kind of embedded in cracked glass. The logo that looks like it ripped off Laughing Man from Ghost in the Shell. I think that was really, really dumb for them to implement that, because Black Mirror, or at least that logo, isn't that iconic that you can just throw that logo there and people go, oh yeah, it's Black Mirror. No, doesn't work like that. Last trailer we have, it's going to be a short episode, is for Fool's Paradise, which is an interesting trailer that kind of caught me off guard, as this might be Charlie Day's year. He was obviously in the Super Mario Bros. Movie that came out quite earlier, and now he's writing, directing, and starring in this very interesting film with a very unique story, like just kind of following this guy who's in like a mental ward, and he's mute, doesn't speak, and he's kind of just thrust into the world and kind of becomes like the biggest thing ever. Like, you can clearly see and feel a sense of personality with this one, and I love the odd style and framing here. Like, if this is Charlie Day's direction, it's very prominent. It's very it has character. It has weight to it. Like, this is someone's voice at the end of the day, kind of making and directing and kind of presenting something. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel like an AI made this when you look at a lot of like Marvel films and other generic action films. You know, a human being has a sense of style, a sense of purpose, and is kind of doing something with the medium of film, which I really appreciate this film on that kind of technical, stylistic level for the most part. And there's a real like Charlie Chaplin vibe to this film, and I wonder how purposeful that is. I don't know if this is like Charlie Day himself comparing himself to Charlie Chaplin because he has, you know, the same first name as the actor, and, you know, it's kind of just the way he stands in the trailer and kind of just how he goes about things. It is very Chaplin-esque, so I do wonder if there is some kind of like reference, inspiration, if there's like some kind of weird secret biopic, or if this is like Charlie Day's adaptation of what if Charlie Chaplin was alive today. I find that concept very interesting, and even if that's not the case, the film is still very intriguing when you kind of look at it, because, like, you know, this mute guy just goes from nothing to everything. Like, what exactly is the appeal of this guy? Like, you know, is he just a commodity? Do people just love the fact that he's just a mute guy? Is he actually technically talented? Are people like taking advantage of him? You know, is he a fraudster? Is he just pretending? Is he the greatest actor of all time? Lots of questions with this film, and that might be the point of this whole thing. There could be a really great twist, like I said, where he is just pretending to be mute, and he's kind of exploited and taken advantage of, you know, fame and media to kind of get to the position he was. But given a lot of his expressions, he seems very clueless and very innocent, and I guess to some extent quite cute. He doesn't seem to know what's going on, or he seems to you know, be way in his what's the word, out of his depths, I guess is the word I'm trying to say. But I do wonder if there is like a hidden commentary behind this film. It does feel like it's a lot smarter than it is, and once again, even if it isn't, it still looks very interesting. It's quite funny. It's got like a lot of like, it's got a charm. That's what the best way I can describe this film. It looks very charming and endearing, and I think films like that, when coming from a maybe personal level, I find those to be some of the more interesting ones. That's why I like films from Wes Anderson, although they have a very, I guess at this point maybe you could say, boring and very interesting style. You know, you are watching a Wes Anderson film. You're watching a film made by a man who has a clear passion and vision. But yeah, that's going to be the last trailer for this episode. But we do have the video of the episode, and that is going to be from Dorian Electra with Freak Mode. Fantastic, really great, catchy song from Dorian Electra. I really hope that they will be releasing a new album soon, hopefully featuring this track. The music video is just insane. I think they always come through with some amazing visuals and concepts that are just batshit crazy. Dorian is always wearing the most amazing outfits that kind of give people like Lady Gaga a run for her money. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and hopefully you guys have enjoyed this episode. I want to thank everyone for listening to this podcast. If you did make it this far, I really appreciate it. I really do. The podcast has been on a nice bit of an incline of recently. People have been enjoying it, more views, I've seen more traction, and I couldn't be more grateful at the end of the day. So yeah, if you are new here, I guess you could subscribe. That always means a lot to me. I don't expect you to, but I do appreciate your time, and thank you for listening. And yeah, I guess I will end this podcast like I always do by saying I was the Angry Raccoon, and I will see you on the next podcast.